Welcome to Clear Conversations, Entrepreneurial Legacies with your host, John Sleeting, an executive partner for Clearwater Capital Partners. Join John and his guests on this exclusive journey behind the scenes of extraordinary entrepreneurial families. In this series, we will dive deep into the stories of John's guests, who generously unveil the paths they've walked, the challenges they've overcome, and the wisdom they've gained along the way. Throughout these conversations, we explore their achievements beyond mere recognition, disclosing the distinctive perspectives that have shaped their entrepreneurial journeys. We hope you enjoy.
Hello, and welcome to Clear Conversations, the Entrepreneurial Legacy Series. I'm your host, John Sleeting, and today I'm joined by Tim and Laura Binning. Tim and Laura are a fantastic couple that I've gotten to know over the last dozen years. They've got 3 adult sons and an adult daughter. They have one of their sons is married, so they also have a delightful daughter-in-law. They've got multiple businesses. They've got a deep faith in terms of how they approach their business and their family. And given the nature of this subject, they're going to dive deeper into the challenges and cycles of business and how that shapes and forms their thoughts and how you can control yourself and not react to what's happening around you. They're a wonderful couple that's on a journey like the rest of us, and we look forward to hearing a bit more about their story. So with that, Tim and Laura, thank you for joining me today. And I've been looking forward to this conversation with the two of you and talking about your own entrepreneurial journey. And we're going to dive into a lot of the backstory from the two of you in terms of what brought you here today. But as you look forward, right, what is the story that you're writing for yourself? How do you think about this concept of entrepreneurial legacies and even the subject matter that we'll dive into? So, Tim, do you want to start and give it a shot?
Sure, I'll give it a shot. Well, thank you for having us. I appreciate it. Looking forward to the conversation. Entrepreneurial legacy. I can hardly say it, right? So I guess we're still writing that story. I haven't really thought much of it other than, go to work each day and work to build a savings and a foundation and security for your family. And I guess as we go on through time and through our lives, we start thinking more about that stuff, right? Like, what do we really want? And so that's a question we're in the process of answering. Yeah. And I don't know if we'll get the answer until we're much older in life.
Well, and that's where it is a journey, right? It is a conversation. It's a topic. And early on, there's the grind. And we'll talk a little bit about the grind and working through things. And so in some ways, it ends up being, it feels like a luxury in the end. Well, when I have time to think about that. And yet each of us in our lives and what that means in terms of how we're living it out, how we're spending our time, the relationships that we're building and being intentional about. Are we leaving a mark on the world in a way that's impactful? Which, knowing the two of you, I know you have left a mark on many lives already, not even thinking about that in the context of legacy, but it is that, what are you leaving behind? I mean, how do people think about it? Laura, any other?
Can I share one thing with you before you go to Laura?
So, is this a disclaimer?
This is a disclaimer. So just for the record, when I was mid-20s, my goal was to retire when I was 30 and die when I was 40. So, and I joked about it, right? Yeah. But I mean, in a sense, it was like, I wanted to do well financially, and I really didn't think much about that. And I think as you get older, then those things start popping in your head. Like you realize the world's not just all about you. There's other things, that goals and dreams and money's not everything. And there's a lot of good that can come from it that, if you use the right way. And so I think that story does get written. So now you can.
You're well above 40 at this point too, right?
But 30, I will say 30 came a lot quicker than I thought. And so did 40. I was like, wait a minute, I'm not ready.
Just past 40. I think the thing with him saying it's changed. It's changed. At least every 5 to 10 years, what we think our goal is. We had a period where we had written out some goals, and we could easily put goals and what the end game was. And it was a lot of achieving things. And then I think once we And we'd kind of forgotten that we had written out some
Hmm.
goals, and then just life was fast, and kids and business opportunities that we took advantage of. And then I came across where we had these old goals that had been written out. It was on paper. Now it's all digital, but it just kind of happened naturally. Like, oh my gosh, we did these things.
We forgot what the
Hmm.
goals were
forgot what they
until
were.
we read them again. We were like,
Yeah,
wow,
and
we
I'm like, well,
actually
that's kinda
hit the goals that
cool.
we wrote down, that we put away, that we really didn't look at every day, which not that we don't recommend that.
Yeah,
But then
yeah.
it was even that those goals had changed so much. Once you start having kids, things are so different. We used to, when we were just doing the real estate sales, we might write out what we could expect our income for that year on the transactions, whatever. And then it just became, okay, are we going to have time together? I had left the job I was working at because I traveled, and that was kept us apart. And then it came to, how are we going to manage work and kids? And then they're trying to do sports
Yeah,
and just trying to make it all work.
Balance.
And,
yeah.
So anyway,
You're
yeah,
living
it
that
just,
out.
and it still changes now. I mean, we don't necessarily write out goals now because we've accomplished things that we wanted to, but gosh, we just, to try and bring some peace around the people whose lives we're in.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so let's pause there on that concept of entrepreneurial legacies and then rewind, because you both grew up in entrepreneurial families,
Mhm.
right? So, Laura, why don't we continue the conversation regarding your upbringing, the household you grew up in, because your parents did retire at 40, given their businesses.
Yeah,
So-
late 40s, and through video industry and the air freight industry. But my dad had done everything from police officer to grocery store owner to air freight and insurance and all these different things. And so many different changes in, and he had a real estate brokerage, and so many different changes in the economy and the industry. And he just flowed with every change. If one thing was falling apart, he went into the next thing, and you just hustled.
Yeah.
You just, there was no, gosh, this is falling apart. Gosh, he had a strange thing with the IRS, and they had shut off their accounts, and the IRS was wrong. And he sold meat from the back of his car. Like, that was kind of a weird period, but he knew he had to provide for the
Transition.
family. Just
all
keep
kinds of
doing.
activities.
So
Work.
I think with us, with changes in real estate and change in, health or kids, whatever, you just keep working.
So we'll come back to that, right? You just keep working. Tim, your upbringing, which is
So we were, I was raised in a family of 7. We had an 8th brother that came along later in life, but 7 of us growing up, mom and dad, and my dad was owned the tool and die company. And so he's a tool and die maker, and our shop, the tool and die shop, was out of our garage. So we had a 2-car detached garage right here in Hoffman Estates. And that's where he ran the business out of. And it was, I mean, my dad would be in jail today. I mean, if he woke you up to go to work, you did not. He only woke you up once. Let's just put it that way. After that, you realize
he only
that
woke you up twice.
he said it was
Once.
once. That's right. He only woke you up once. If he woke you up to go to work, you went to work. And I remember, sweeping floors as a 5-6-year-old, and drilling holes and parts.
Did you say you were
like
7 years old when you were
standing
at the
the
drill
old
press?
milk carts that they used to deliver milk in? He would turn it upside down. You'd stand on it, and back, it was different world. I remember we worked, and at one point I complained to my mom about not getting up, because my dad said, "You keep track of your hours. I'm going to pay you. You want to get paid? I'll pay you. Well, I want to get paid." I think that was too much to ask. So I was probably about 10 years old, and I kept track of my hours. I had 100 hours, and probably went and cried to my mom. My mom went and nagged my dad and told him, you said you would pay him. He wrote me a check for $10. so my first official pay rate was 10 cents an hour, which is probably more than I was worth. But no, I mean, he drilled into us, and we're all, when I look at the 7 or 8 of us now, we're all very different personality types, work ethics. Most of my brothers work very hard, but everyone reacts differently as a child. And for me, I just always been, I work. That's what I like to do it.
Well, and that was the commonality that came out from both of you too, which was the just work, just go out
just
there
do
and
it. Yeah.
hustle and just do it. Somebody stole that line from
Yeah,
you,
they
I
stole
think,
it.
and made a big deal out of it in a marketing
Yeah.
splash. But it's just the just do it. And I forget exactly how you framed it, Laura, when we were talking about college, not college, but it was like there's the aspect of, well, don't worry about just learning, just go get stuff done, just go do it in terms of the approach. So as you were finishing up high school and you were working in the work program, you were actually working back with your family business out of high school, get out early back when they allowed that, and still working. So when the college question came up, how did you each process that and then make the choice that you did?
I think it's for my family, the business was, there were multiple corporations running at that time. They were all thriving. It almost never came up. I mean, my parents didn't go to college. I wasn't a great student, and that was okay then that you weren't a great student because you worked. And I loved working. I worked with people overseas, and we had the telex machine and you could communicate, and it was so fascinating. And I just was eager to be part of that. And, my mom worked there, my sister, great friends. It was a nice environment. What more could I want at that time, so
working, just working.
Yeah. And that was kind of normal in our community.
Yeah. And Tim?
For me, very similar. I was living out on my own from the time I was 18. So, was working in a steel distributor, running a crane. And I knew I didn't want to do that. I knew I didn't want to do tool and die. And good with math, bad with machinery. and so I took some classes at a community college, sales, marketing, and college just wasn't. ADHD, or I don't know what it was, but I just couldn't sit in a classroom. And that was when I got into real estate.
So how old were you when you bought your first piece of real estate?
I was 20 years old when I bought my first piece, and then 21 when I bought my second, and got into real estate shortly after that. And
what was the attraction to real estate at a young age? I mean, what came together and said, okay, this is it for you?
Gosh, I just knew I had an interest in it. Like, I loved looking at the properties. I loved running the numbers, like analyzing the investment, whether it would work out. I love the concept of buying a property that was a tangible asset that I could rent out, that I knew there was a need for, that I can have a long-term investment that I knew at some point. When I was younger, I used to think if I only owned 4 homes when I was older, I would always have 4 times the amount of the average household cost of rent of living in a home, right? Yeah. And that would work out very well for retirement.
Yeah.
And so I just had that interest in real estate. And so it was natural that when I was going to school and then looking for something to do as far as outside of the tool and die or steel industry, and I wanted to go into sales, real estate, selling real estate just made perfect sense.
So you were building a real estate portfolio starting at the age of 20. You were working in the family businesses, and then you, Laura, got into traveling and there was recording and video and bands and a music scene. There's a whole lot of things that got wrapped up into that.
Marching bands were involved. It's very strange. Next few years.
She was a great drummer.
I have no music background, but anyway,
So that was your early 20s. So taking some classes in college, but it was really about getting in terms of learning from doing, right? Almost an apprenticeship at being involved and working through and solving problems, which ultimately is what education should be teaching, is how you solve problems and diving in and going after and how you do this. Now you've been married for 28 years and in business together for 26 of those 28 years.
Correct.
If I've got that right. You met when you were 25 years old.
Yeah.
Just real real quickly in terms of the backstory of how you met and
Oh my
how
gosh.
quickly things
You had
moved
the
from
nice
there.
friend. I had the not so not so much.
My friend was nicer than her friend.
You
No,
had a
they
good
were. They
quality
were.
Remember,
both-
people are listening.
They were
right?
both
Is that-
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, friends.
Sorry, friends.
No.
Met through friends,
Yeah.
and gosh, just it. I had not been dating I had decided I was going to not date for a couple of years, and my friend kept saying, "Well, what about dating Tim? What about dating Tim?" And I said, "No,
And I was
I'm
like,
really,
yeah, what about dating?
I'm like, no, I'm really not dating. I'm just not doing that right now at this point in my life, And but we became friends, fast friends, and then met as friends for a couple months. But by 8 months we were married.
We met,
We were getting to
met in
work.
January, started dating in March, got engaged in May, married in August. And the number one question was, so are you planning a family?
I didn't understand.
Which
He's
was
like-
not
not the case for the record, right?
Yeah.
For the record, we were not. Our
Years
kids are
later.
probably listening.
Yeah.
They came along later.
But,
We just we were good decision makers.
There you go.
He was already in real estate, doing well, had to invest a couple investment properties, which interesting with my family. My parents had, a similar start. My dad bought his first home. My grandmother had to sign the paperwork because he was too young. And then here Tim winds up buying his first investment property very young. So very interesting that way. But then not that we had intended, after getting married, that we intended to work together, but the traveling that I was doing was kind of weird, and he needed help. And so
Good
if
fit.
you look at what my parents had done, and then I wound up becoming his partner and everything, and his backup right-hand man, that's exactly what my parents had done.
Because you work very closely together. So there's
Very close.
very closely
Yes.
together.
About this close.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. In full disclosure, in terms of when we were selling our house and buying our house, you took care of all of that.
Yeah.
And we did that just because as couples, we'd go out to dinner more
Yes.
than
That was
more than
awesome.
looking at real estate. So you work really close. But so at 28 years ago, you were married, 26 years though in the business together. So there's the first couple of years. So take everyone through those early years, because there was a decision point of saying we're going to do this together. And that could be a huge strain. I mean, my wife's listening. She knows I love her to death. She would never work with me. I would never work with her in terms of outside of the household.
So at least you're in
Is it-
agreement.
You're in agreement. You're in agreement. Spousal unity is very important.
It's very important.
But the challenges that brings into play. So go through those early. How did that work out?
I
for
don't
the
think
two
it
of
was
you?
too much of a challenge. I mean,
No.
it fit right. It just happened. It just,
We love being together.
yeah.
Still do. So, it was a very natural, I needed help. And she definitely has more of the skill set for like computer work and design and things along those natures, which I'm like, get me, I don't want to be in front of it.
And I can't add 2 + 2, so I need
I love
them.
it. And I'm the numbers
I knew I needed
guy.
somebody smart around
I
me.
like the relational, go out and work with people. And she
Mhm.
loves let me work and do something computer wise or design stuff or, brochures or
And,
Marketing
advertisements,
and-
marketing. Yeah.
and so you're moving from a few pieces of real estate and turning this all into businesses, right? I mean, it's one thing to have one or two or a few homes or, rental buildings that you have. But then you've turned it into a business. So give everyone a little bit of a glimpse now of the different businesses that you all have going in real estate. And then we'll go back and bridge from the start at age 20 to now getting into business together to where things are at today in terms of the breadth
Wow.
the breadth of businesses.
Well, do you want to take that or you want me to?
No, you go ahead. That's a lot.
I always say, and I truly mean this from my heart, God knew me before I knew him. There is no doubt in my mind. I mean, the things that we did, someone was watching over me because it all just kind of flowed naturally. So I started the investment properties. We met, got married pretty quickly doing the real estate. She works for me with the real estate. And then something happened a couple of years later where the owners of our real estate office were looking to, go a different direction and approach me about buying the office. The only reason why we bought our first office was I wanted a nice place to work. And so I knew that if I controlled that, I can set the environment, have a nice place to sell real estate. And so the one thing that Laura, that I've always been grateful for, is that she's always been like, any decision that I came to her with, as far as or any opportunity that I thought this is something that makes sense for us, she's always been like, yeah, if you think it works, you're the numbers guy. So if you think it works, it makes sense, let's do it. So always, never really the fear thing, more the let's go to work and do it.
And there are a lot of things I've turned him down on. Like,
Yeah.
we went on, took the kids on an RV trip, and it was like the best thing ever. It was so much fun. And then we were at the RV show. I'm like, we're not doing
We're not
this.
buying an RV.
Doing
There's
this.
a lot of purchases that she said no to.
No mobile real estate. Only
Yeah.
And
permanent.
somehow anything that makes me work more, she's okay with.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we bought the Remax office that we work out of, still to this day, and just kept selling real estate, growing our real estate sales business, and then I think we both enjoyed helping other people in our business grow their businesses. And so
So now you have the 3 offices.
We have
with
3
Remax.
offices.
How
now
many
with
agents
Remax.
total?
We have about 80 agents.
Okay.
And 80 great agents, I always like to say.
Yeah.
But and it's great. And we still do this. I still get excited over the new person coming into our industry that you can help. And, assuming that they have, I'm not as patient maybe as I should be. So, for me, it's like, just get to work.
Yeah.
So, but I love helping them and giving them ideas and,
Everything that
direction.
he was doing that was bringing him success in sales for real estate, it was just so easy we were so happy to share that with people. There's enough people to buy homes that we didn't have to hoard the sales to ourselves and keep that. And it is neat to see. We had people that they call them Rising Star of the Year. We had a couple of times that's happened. And like, you're really excited to see somebody else
grow,
do well.
Succeed
Like,
and develop. And
one thing that was really neat is the founder of Remax, Dave Lineker. We were invited up to his home, which is this castle, and I mean, it was just an amazing opportunity, and just to be able to thank him for putting together franchises that we could, without college degrees, be where we are today. Make a living, raise a family, help other people. It's it was his giving. Sure, he prospered from it, but it was his giving, and he doesn't have to put in what he puts in. And likewise, I'm sure we don't have to put in what we do, but you get something out of it that's more than the financial.
And when you think about vertical integration, horizontal integration, there's the aspect. So you've also got a mortgage business that's going. You also have a portfolio of real estate that's direct investment for you, in addition to the agencies. And it's all been wrapped around real estate, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and primarily residential real estate. But you have some commercial items that have come in a little bit in the later
more
years.
recently.
And so you think from the early years and then moving forward and building the business and the challenges, dealing with people and dealing with the properties, we all can't help but reflect back on then the great financial crisis.
Yeah.
Right. Because
Thanks,
when you're concentrated,
thanks for bringing that up.
Right? It might be a sore point, but it's also, I think, very encouraging and inspirational when you go through how you process that time, because industry's all right. Everything runs in cycles, and there's things that happen that are up and down in any business that happens. When it comes to concentrated, right? We talk about, wealth is created through concentration and it's lost through concentration. And so how you strike that imbalance, but when you're doing what you're doing, as any entrepreneur is saying, I'm going to be an expert in your field. It's not tool and die. It's not, videography. It is going to be real estate, residential real estate at that as a segment. And then what happened in 2007, 8, and 9. Bring everybody back. I mean, there's a little bit of
so
time
I
to bring
remember,
everybody back, how you were processing, how you were working through, and the dynamics of everything that happened then.
So there's the market that like the public sees, right? They see home prices going up, they think the market's great. They see home prices going down, they think the market's horrible. And the reality of it is that's true for people that own real estate or sellers of real estate or living in their homes. But the reality of it is for the real estate industry as a whole, typically it's number of sales that's driving our market more. So if real estate's going up, but the sales are going down, that's not a good thing for a real estate business. So in 2006, while pricing was still rising, we started seeing a decline in the number of sales. And I remember leaning over to Laura. We were doing our Christmas event, and I remember leaning over at the end of 2006 and saying, after we gave our speech about, here's what we did, saying, I'm so glad to have this year over. And now I laugh and I say, be careful what you wish for. Because 2007, I would have loved to have 2006 back. 2008, I would have loved to have 2007 back, but the end of 2008 to like March of 2009, it was literally like someone shut the valve off on real estate. It was insane, like how slow business was and how few people were moving and selling homes and buying. And then what happened in 2009 was we had the crash where the pricing came down. Like literally in 6 months, it came down about 15 to 20%. And when that happened, that caused the market to start, things start happening, things started moving, properties started moving because people realized, oh, okay, things are selling. They're just selling at a lower price. And so we dealt through that. But it was tough. We had, I'll never forget. I mean, we had clients that were losing their homes, and you're trying to help them through that process of what is a short sale and how you can navigate them through that process of losing their home. I mean, which is kind of a crazy thing to have to work through with someone. And then I would have, my job as a real estate company owner was to motivate our salespeople, right? And show them how to sell, go get them. And I remember being in my office and just like, agents coming in, and it was like, they would talk to me about, they were maybe losing their homes, and, I'm trying, it's going to be okay. Just keep working, stay on the phones, talk to people, help people and whatnot. And I remember thinking, gosh, unfortunately, I can't just tell them, well, that's all right. I just had 3 other people come into my office that say they were losing their homes too. Right. We're trying to keep everyone positive, So I just remember going through that time, and I remember, that's where like faith comes in, and it's just so important. But I remember just saying, like, God, I know that if I just help people or try to help people, that it'll all be all right. And it was. But it was a tough time. It was a tough time for people in our industry, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Laura, anything you want?
Well, I do remember that time where Tim was really telling people, don't always just listen to the radio or watch TV. Just keep talking to people. There were homes selling, and there were then a lot of people getting out of real estate. So the people that were making connections, you can stay home and hide and not pick up the phone or not do anything about it, or you can make a point of meeting with people. And those appointments were sad, and he would come. We started going to church at that time. And for some reason, I would go to I have a lovely home, but for some reason I go to the dining room on the floor and kneel on the floor and pray. And I just remember praying for him, because every day was coming home with these sad stories. And then you just kind of kept meeting some really great people throughout there. He had an opportunity that he met someone that is actually introduced us to you as well, which was a fun thing. But at that time, I was praying one day, and Tim called. And normally it's kind of to talk him through his day, kind of sad, whatever's going on, what work we have ahead of us. And he was jacked. He was excited. He's like, I met this guy, and he prayed for me. And actually, I don't know if we had started going to church before that or after. Anyway, talked to him about some business opportunities, and it kind of set us in a direction and kind of opened our mind to, instead of being stuck in this slump, a way to really help some people, because there were still people working. There were still people getting transferred around the country. We kind of got focused on the negative. And then we kind of started switching to, all right, how can we help the people that have an income through this? What can we do? So we started taking classes on the short sale programs. By this time, a few years into it, banks were figuring out programs. So we just, things started going in a slow, positive direction to figure out
we always try to
move
be
forward.
a problem solver, right? So if there's a problem, which there was a problem, how do we solve that? So we had, before the market did what it did in 08 and 09, we had what was called a guaranteed sales program. So we would actually guarantee the sale of someone's home if they were buying a home through us, and whatnot. And that program worked pretty well, but homes were selling, right? Well, then in 08, 09 hits, and it's like, well, yeah, we love your guaranteed sales program, but the price you're offering to guarantee it for, we can't sell it for that anyways. And so then what happened was we moved into a marketplace where there was people that had plenty of income. They wanted to move. They wanted to buy another home, but they couldn't sell their old home, but they qualified for that extra mortgage. Gotcha. And so then we came up with a guaranteed leasing program where we said, hey, you can hang on to this property. And I still have a couple properties that we manage for people today from 15 years ago, which is awesome. It just shows that, because that's what you want. You want clients to love what you do for them. And so what we did is we said, you're going to be an investor in a sense, but we're going to manage it for you. So you're not going to deal with renters or leaky toilets. They're going to call us, and we're going to handle that.
Right.
And we'll guarantee you a rent amount each month. So you're going to know what your income is. And then that allows you to go buy that other home.
So we guaranteed their rental, their rental
because
income.
rents were renting.
So they could buy their next home for, what was it, 7 years?
7-year guarantee.
When he first came to me with this program,
she's like, "What are you, crazy?"
Like it was.
Now we have more rentals, but we just don't own them.
It was
they're nuts.
Mind blowing, and it just. A lot of he made it work. He made it happen, and it was wow. It was.
Did you ever find yourself in those moments then of going back to your own upbringing, right? Back to what you both learned in your families, which is roll up your sleeves, just do it, just get to work. The grit that comes with that of saying, no, okay, here's where the world's at. You can't control it. All we can control is our actions. So let's go solve a problem, right? Together.
So for me, like, the work ethic came from, I always said I'd be a great factory worker, because my dad was like, you do that, and you did it. You didn't say, well, what if I do it this way, right? Okay. So when we were told to do something, you did it. But
like wake up in the morning.
Yeah, don't make me tell you twice. When I started my career, I had some great classes I took that were real estate related and sales related. And some of the things that stuck with me was you can get anything you want out of life if you help enough people get what they want. And so that's always stuck with me. And there's other things too that they become part of your soul or whatever. You just, you realize that forget about the money or whatever you're trying to do or accomplish, just help people and it'll be okay. And so we teach, our agents when we talk about selling, I always say a great salesperson is a great problem solver. So it's not just about selling someone something; it's figuring out what the need is, or what the issue is that they have that they need to overcome. If there's something that they need, and solve that problem for them or help them solve.
And I was going to say, with solving that, we didn't get it right on the first try or the first couple of tries. We had to get a flow. I mean, there were lots of things that had to be set up and a lot of things that had to work, in harmony to actually make this work. And then we were on a roll that it became very easy. But I think a lot of times it was so daunting. There were so many things that seemed that could not go right, but we had to try. And then we just
certainly don't always get it right.
Hey,
right. No one does.
We always kind of joked around, or I joke around with whether it's buying investment properties or starting a new business. we'll always have one house. if we ruin it all,
Yeah, we'll always have a
we'll
place.
each other, and we'll have
We'll always have a
house that
place
we
to
could live
stay.
in. We'll save one house, we'll lose it all, and
Always
start over. And I think a lot of people are afraid of, they're hanging on to the safety of doing things, that they don't try something bold. It was bold, it worked, and
greed and fear. Either
And
they have the
we-
fear
Right.
of trying something or the greed of trying to get
It's all
rich
about
quick.
money. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so go back to your marriage and working together, and now throwing in the stressor of what you were working through and navigating for others. How did you handle that within your own marriage and with your family, and, and not letting the stress of the work? Because a lot of people say, well, I leave work at home, right? And when I come home,
no.
for you, it's all,
we
it's
worked
all
a
one.
lot
I
of
mean,
late
it's
hours,
all together.
and he would come home tired. So we started having kids, and I was kind of replaced at the office. So then I was working from home, and it was hard to, he'd come home late at night from appointments with work. So then I've got to now do my work, and it's late, and I'm both tired and stressed. And then as the kids got older, he wanted to coach all their sports teams and everything. And he would show up to the baseball field. We had a truck, fortunately, had tinted windows in back. He would show up in a suit. I'd have coach's uniform in the back. He would change in the back of the truck and hop out on the field. So he coached all the different
I was a horrible coach. I mean, honestly, I was.
But you were there. But you were there.
But yeah, I mean, he was there.
And I did try everything. Like, I remember giving the kids joke coal. Like I had the worst space. I mean, it wasn't them. It was
we
me.
had
trust
fun,
me.
but we didn't win a lot. But
We didn't
had
win a
fun.
lot, but our teams had the most fun.
But we were stressed, and we would both get, you get frustrated, and you make mistakes of saying things that you don't want to, or you're short fused. And so
I
we're
think
not perfect.
The commitment,
you
we always
know?
knew the commitment was there. So if she's frustrated or stressed, and there's times where I know to just shut up, and then, like, hey, she's just having a bad day and I need to leave that alone. Right.
Mhm.
And I think probably vice versa.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, they always say, don't go to bed angry. Sometimes I just told somebody to say,
Sometimes go to sleep.
sometimes go to
You'll wake
bed
up much
angry.
happier.
And by morning, it's like, wow, that really wasn't a big deal, because you just have to keep pushing forward. And I think people give up. They give up on their partner. And it's like, gosh, it's so hard to find a good partner. You think you're going to leave the person that was great in the beginning and find, I mean, I think we were realistic, and I saw my family struggle through the changes in business, and my parents stuck together, and he knew he wanted our relationship to always work. And we wanted to show that to our kids. You don't give up on each other, even if you're mad for a couple of days. You're really holding to your anger, and eventually it just kind of softens, and you're like, why am I even angry this
You
time?
have 3 boys and a daughter, all in their 20s now, right? One daughter-in-law, 2 to add into that. So they were in formative years. Again, going back through the financial crisis and everything there, they were in formative years. They were old enough to know what was going on, and things were hard. So how did that reflect the relationship then back beyond the two of you, back to the engagement with the kids? And then as an inflection point, what changed then over the last 15 years, if anything, in terms of a trajectory of what you took away from what you went through in the financial crisis, and how you operated now for the last, since 2000?
Well, I think we always try to instill in the kids, like, don't spend more than you make, which has always been, to me, budgeting is
Save for your car.
simple. And I hate to say that because I know
Gosh.
people struggle with budgeting, but to me, it's simple. It's like, you just don't spend what you didn't make. I mean,
Right.
don't go into debt. If you go into debt, you're going to pay interest on it, on money that you didn't have in the first place. Right. So we talk to kids about that when the cars and things like that, and I would say that it's a work in progress. We have our 3 boys are all very different financially, and our daughter's different. They're all very different on how I think they'll manage money as we move forward. The same way that I'm probably very different than many of my siblings. So I had said I was raised in a family of 8. counting my youngest brother, who was born, he's much younger than me. But I see the differences. We're all very different. I don't think my parents raised me one way and my brother another way. But some of us are savers, some of us are spenders, and and then others are in between. And so I think it's just something that we're all different.
And one thing that that is really a point in history with our kids is they came up with social media, and we went through times where Facebook first came about, and I don't know if I got it from my parents. When you're doing well, you don't need to go, and before social media, you don't need to, we do well for our own achievement, for our own security or fun because we achieved something. We're not like trying to make other people see us for, so this is really wonderful that you have us here. And I was like, John wants us to come. Like, why? We're just, we're just
us.
We're just
us.
Working. It can all disappear the next day, anything that we've achieved. And we still have to have, just our family and our faith left behind. And one thing with the kids is always pushing, like, okay, so the kids got a car. We don't need to go to social media and tell the world that you got a car. The kids got into a particular college, and you kind of get, at first with social media, got into that, and then you started seeing like, well, I felt bad for people, or I don't know how to even put it into words, but I think it was a real big time to shape our kids into who they would be. So one of our kids just bought a house. You kind of want, like, we're so excited. And you want to share that with everyone, but I don't want to share it at the cost of somebody else feeling bad that their kid didn't have that opportunity or something. So I think growing our daughter into appreciating that she's beautiful for her and for us, and we just love her personality, that's not for the rest of the world. So it's awkward for me to be talking about, or it's awkward for us to be talking about us and our accomplishments, because we're just doing our thing,
We've been
for
fortunate.
us.
Yeah. But it's also, we talk about stewardship, right? And there's stewardship of what that means for wealth, and there's stewardship of time and talent too, your human capital, your intellectual capital, what you bring to that, that is instructive to others, because there's others that are 25 years younger. Parker's in the business with you, right? Your oldest son. And so him being in the business, well, there's a lot that, he's learned, and he's probably further down the road than you were at his age.
Well, yeah.
Because he's learned from you. So having mentorship, having examples, having this conversation for others to be encouraged, inspired, and understanding, okay, if I have grit, right? And things that work in cycles and the ups and downs, and leading into your faith like you did at that point in time. And also that holding it loosely and saying, well, if all else fails, we have our home, we have each other, we have our, faith and family that comes into play. That is important. And there's a little bit of a stewardship of that story, because that story is that formation back to where we started, which is the legacy component regarding the impact that you're leaving on the world, the effect that you have on others. And so I'm going to kind of go into this concept of philanthropy, and what it means to be generous and living, because I know you live that out as well. So there's some that even came out of the financial crisis in terms of what you were doing and how you were living that out. So when you think about this generosity, philanthropy, however you want to phrase it, how do you think about that subject matter?
Gosh, well, why? I guess it's when my parents retired early, they said, there's no point in retiring early if your friends haven't retired early too. There's nobody else. And they continued to work. My father is now 84 and he still works. My mom has passed, but you can enjoy things, but there's so much. I mean, it's fun to get new things. And then you start looking at your garage like, wow, I've got some things that I don't use. Or we would go on vacation and rent a condo. And it's so nice to be in one of those like Airbnb type of things where there's not stuff. And so you start realizing like, the stuff is not bringing us happiness. Helping other people succeed in life, that is really, whether it's helping our daughter figure out her way, or our kids, a neighbor, or other people that work in our real estate offices, that is just really cool to be able to do that. And maybe it just sounds corny, but I know I'm going to eat. I know I live in a safe place, and I'm happy with, my family and our health. And I know we're so blessed, and I hate to see somebody else sad. And I hate to see somebody else greedy or sad. And if there's something that we can do about that, I don't know. I like being around people. He's great with selling, but his sales are really to help people.
There's a purpose beyond.
Yeah,
There's
it's
a
not just
purpose.
making sales.
I mean, I always feel like we give, we enjoy that, and we like, the good causes. We did through our church, they did a campaign for wells in Africa for people that didn't have water. And the story behind that would take an hour to go into that. But when you think about just clean water and the fact of what we take for granted here, like the poorest person in the United States is incredibly wealthy compared to when you look at what they have and what they have available to them. Even if they were homeless, they're incredibly wealthy versus what maybe someone in Sierra Leone, Africa, where they were doing wells had. They walk 3 miles to get water that's gonna make them sick.
Right.
When they drink it. And it's so sad. So anyway, so our church did a thing. We went there and they asked us to be part of that. And we were, and seeing like that you can do that for someone is just such an incredible.
And how excited they were just to be able to have this pump come out of the ground with water. I mean, they were singing and dancing and praising. And one pastor that was with us talked about not going home and saying to everyone, you should just feel blessed. At least you're not in Africa, or at least you're not, lacking water. And our problems here in the US, we have problems. Anyway, it just going to these other places and really seeing, witnessing, being in a jungle where the things that you see, it really brings you humble that
perspective.
And we had the next year, our office, they did a collection for a Christmas gift, and they donated money to that cause, which was really neat. Cool. Cause then it's like, okay, now they know, like I'm getting, and I'm work in progress. I mean, I'm not perfect by any means, and we should give a lot more than we do. That's just my own personal belief, but we enjoy giving. Just to see that the fact that the ripple effect, right? That someone knew that we did something that was near and dear to our heart, and then they said, "Hey, let's contribute to that cause." So it's really, really cool to see.
Well, and so when you say you're convicted of like we should give more, how do you do that mental math then and going through that? Because you're building the businesses, the wealth that gets created from the success in the businesses, and
it's a personal struggle that I have, and I know that that's just me personally, and I don't know, Lord shares 100% on that, but Christ said if you have 2 shirts, you should give away 1. Well, I have more than 2 shirts, so until I only have 1, right? We all fall short. I think
we try and figure that out as we go along. The different people have come in our lives that we've been able to help, bringing our daughter into our life that, she's not biological. So helping her grow without spoiling her too much, because it is fun to spoil her. And she likes it. I think we're still trying to figure some of that out, because we can still work to grow an income to later give more. I think one thing is to try, the kids, they're coming along. We want to see them be givers. They're all giver of their hearts, their time. I'm blown away at times when I've seen how generous they are, that just with their heart, the things that they
They'll do
would
for
do
others.
for
Yeah.
for others, and far less um, they're selfless.
Hmm.
They don't necessarily have the funds to be giving financially, but hopefully they will, that will be on their heart to do later.
Yeah, and I do believe it is all the above, right? It's the time, the human capital, it is the intellectual capital and the ideas and the talent that they can bring to that, and figuring out where can I plug in and do something with my time, and then the financial capital. And actually, if it's just writing checks, in some ways that's not good giving into itself, because you talk about the water program. It's one thing to give it to it financially. After you've been there and you really understand the organization, you really understand what they're doing, and that it's being stewarded well in its own right to accomplish the end that's there. And that's the resulting social capital
so
fruit.
important.
You brought up something interesting, like, or Tim did.
I'm sure it was Tim.
I am
well,
too.
And he is the numbers guy, and I'm the type, I'm happy if I have a brand new fresh pair of white sneakers from Walmart, because they're $10, and if they get dirty, I don't mind. I can throw them out, and I'm out. I can mentally, that's okay with me.
She's
it's
cheap
my,
on her.
I'm
She's
cheap
cheap on
on
herself.
myself.
Yeah.
And he is more of a numbers guy, so he cares more about the finances. I'm blessed that he takes care of that. I know he's got us, so I don't have to worry about that. But for me, the time, I don't have time for myself. And that's where so when I give time, we do something at the house, a couple of different events through the church. And right now we have, on Monday nights, there's around 50, the number has changed, around 50 20-something-year-olds that come into our home, so they don't have to meet in restaurants, so they can study the Bible and hang out. And
all of our neighbors thought we were doing a real estate seminar every Monday night. They were like, "Oh, we thought that was a real estate seminars we were doing every Monday."
We used to do it for the high school group. And now it's 20-something-year-olds. But I have to clean the house. I have to make sure that they have like drinks and snacks in between doing my work. So all of a sudden I'll be like, we've got a meeting. I'm like, okay, I got to finish that meeting because I got to get back to the house because I got 50 people. And then we leave. Which is the best part. We just open up the house to them. So for me, being able to give my time to people, that's a hard thing. And I love when I get to do that. I love that. And that we can share our home. Because it's the two of us there, and he gets he'll be like, I don't know if I should give the money on this, and it's like, well, you don't have to do it immediately.
Because there's so many great causes, right?
Yeah.
So like you said, you want to make sure it's good.
Yeah.
You're being a good
That's
steward.
A good steward. Yeah. So.
And good giving is hard.
Good steward of the
trying to
giving,
figure all that
right?
out
Not
still.
just writing a check.
And so your dad's still working. This is the part with purpose. So as you start looking forward, right, and we're all in a different place, and we're all on a journey together, and people are trying to figure it out for themselves and their families, and you really spoil the grandkids when they come along. We know that.
I can't wait.
And so when you start looking forward, then what do you look forward to in anticipation? Like, what do you start planning for to say we're really excited about the opportunities that we're going to be able to do X, Y, or Z into the future? Because you already said it in a little bit of that grit, the work ethic, the mind. You're get it done through the day. You get it done through. Every time we bring up estate planning strategy and whatnot too, there's an aspect of going, okay, planning, that's in the future. We'll get to that, right? But going through it, how are you processing? Where are you at now as you look forward and saying, here's what we're really excited about into the future?
Gosh, I would say having more time to focus on, how that giving looks, right? Like we're still growing, but having more time, a little bit more time freedom to enjoy, right? To enjoy seeing different places and whatnot. But then to also look at, okay, what do we, how do we develop that story? Mm-hmm. So how do we, what causes are important to us? Where can we give? Where can we make the most impact? Mm-hmm. Both not only financially, but also maybe even with the use of our time, whether it's spiritually or financially helping other people, right?
Right.
And our career's been based on that, in a sense. When you're helping, a house is someone's most typically their most valuable asset.
Right.
And so we were a part of that, but then also grown careers of agents and things like that. So, I mean, to me, it would be giving back, just like motivating people, how I can use what I've learned over the years to help others succeed and get the things that they want out of life.
Right.
That's what I would enjoy doing more of.
Right.
Instead of getting stuck in like right now, many times we get stuck in the day-to-day,
Mm-hmm.
the day-to-day operation of our business. And it's very busy, and it's, there's a lot of moving parts.
Right.
And whether it's the real estate investments or it's the real estate offices or it's the mortgage, we get stuck, we get drilled down in that day-to-day operations. And I would like to be able to pull myself out of that a little bit and focus on other things.
Well, it's the tyranny of the urgent, right? The tyranny of the urgent,
Mm-hmm.
where it's, okay, we got to get these things done today because they're urgent, but you don't have enough time left
Correct.
in terms of what's important.
Yeah.
And what's important a lot of times is more important than the urgent, but we end up having to respond to all these
Right.
urgency
Yeah.
things.
Yep.
So it is being intentional about carving out that time to say, no, I'm going to focus on.
That's what I
these
look forward
items.
to the most, is
And
being
we
intentional about
do-
carving out that time.
We have some great, over the years, we've been able to meet great people, and
Yeah.
so the team that we have, management in the offices, gosh, we have just been really blessed with some great people to grow the businesses with. And then having Parker, that we can push a lot of the sales. He's got the energy. He's,
We have a
he's,
general manager that's also taken a lot of responsibilities off of
Yeah.
our plate, which has been
and the way
huge,
that came about is
huge,
just
yeah.
a neat story, and the friendships we've made. So while I think some of it is we have to allow ourselves to start enjoying, and he probably thinks it's a bad thing. I was all wrapped up, we had like this year 5 new technologies and the different companies, the different whatever. It just was a lot. I'm like, if my cell phone dies, I can't take a new technology. So like 5
She's
big
tech
new
support.
Yeah. 5 new platforms that we had to, bring on board. And I was stressed over things. And he says to me one day, he's like, don't take yourself so seriously. I'm like, I'm really not that big of a deal. Like, I almost got caught up in life of everybody's a big deal. Everybody's so important. I'm important because I've got these things that I've got to do. And it's like,
We're all replaceable, right?
Yeah,
I mean, fortunately or unfortunately, I mean, it's just the reality.
I'd like to, the world is your oyster. You are a very important human being, but you are very important to your circle or to your family, because the next person that and I guess that's kind of where, like, all of social media and stuff, that's like all this self-importance and look at how special I am. Well, you're special to your people because that person's special to their people, and everybody's trying to prove to each other how special we are. And so I kind of got wrapped up in this, like, I've got to get all this stuff done and it's so important. And then he's like, don't take yourself so serious. And I kind of took a step back, like, okay, yeah, really, it's technology and it'll be there tomorrow. And a lot of it's under my control. And then there'll be a new technology.
You'll solve one problem, you'll have 2 more.
Yeah. And so we're so dramatic. And I think I would like to see us be less reactive and be more proactive, more intentional, enjoy it more. We try and remind each other each day, like, we kind of get goofy in the morning. We have our morning time that we sit in the living room and we, read the Bible, and we kind of catch up on some news and some emails real quick.
Best business book in the world, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, no kidding.
Plug for the Bible, because in case they need to sell a few more.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is.
But
really is.
that time kind of sets us straight. And then and we always and then our favorite quote is our famous philosopher that said, everybody has
everyone has a plan.
Mike
I don't know.
Tyson.
Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face, and that's Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
Mike
And we have an
Tyson.
autograph,
The theologian
Mike
there.
Tyson
Yeah, the
boxing
theologian.
glove. So you have this plan. You start in the morning that you're going to be intentional about these things, and then a phone call rings before
One
we
phone
even leave
call.
the living room, and it's, oh my gosh, all this is. So trying to, even though there's all this chaos and all this drama, and something could be bad that's happening, let's focus. Let's calm down. Let's not react. Take a minute before we respond. And I catch myself doing it still, where you want to write an email, a response, and then it's like, let me just not hit send yet and let it sit in my draft folder. And then, maybe I could take a different approach to that. And I can be kind, because there's a human being on the other receiving end of that email. And so I think.
And then every
just-
once in a while I say, I hit send before I can think
Oh,
about it.
and they're like, oh boy, you did.
Which
didn't
isn't.
you?
And your email or it was to Tim, right? It was
Hey, just
I'm the
doing that.
first to admit, in case anyone doesn't know, I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
Well, and how do you strike that balance regarding it's not about you, right? Taking that self-centeredness off, like you talked about with the social media facade that's out there, the traveling the world, seeing the heartache and hardship all over, and bringing it down to the humanity level, and then also that reconciliation. But I'm the one that has the opportunity to make a difference in somebody else's life, and not making yourself a god in that moment, but also that responsibility to say, but if no one else does something, I actually need to be the person that steps in, right?
I have
and
a need.
So that balance of going, it's not about me. I'm not important, but I'm important enough, and I'm the one in this opportunity in order to make a difference for somebody. And that's what I'm hearing, right? It's the humility coming out.
We've seen some
and-
sad
and-
things,
and doing
and
that.
wish that we had slowed down a little more to recognize how much somebody was hurting. Because a lot of times it's the show, it's the everything's great show, it's the so I think going forward we want to really focus on, we've always tried to put people before us. There's times I've got things going on, and then I'll make time for somebody else, even though I've got this, knocking at the door that I got to get this done. But aside from work, to just really see how many people are in this world of plenty, that it is not enough, that their heart is what needs something, and not rush to the next text, email, appointment, whatever. Slow down for someone and like, how are you doing, really?
Sometimes I feel like we teach our kids in sound bites. So I told my middle son about 2 weeks ago, because he started a new job, and he said, I want to make this, I'm making this, I want to make that. And I said, just be careful with that, because when you make that, then you're going to want to make the next level, and then then you have to learn. I think we all do. We have to learn to be grateful and satisfied with what we have. It's okay to go for bigger, greater, better goals financially, whatever that entails. But I think that you will live a much better life if you have gratitude for what you have first before you start thinking about what you want.
With contentment, there's great gain, right?
Yeah.
And that having a mindset of heart of gratitude for where
be
you're
grateful
at.
for where you're at.
Yeah.
And I always tell the kids, there'll always be someone that makes more money than you, and there'll always be someone that makes less. So don't focus on what other people are doing. Focus at where you're at, where you want to be. But again, count your blessings before you look for more.
Right. And yet
So.
that doesn't take away from running an organization with excellence, right? You
No.
have all these
Yeah.
people
Still-
that are dependent upon
should be
you
working
to do
hard.
your
Yeah.
job really well.
We have our numbers of things to meet and do, and
and
then
that's
stay
responsibility.
stay grounded, right? I think God has a way of humbling us all. He's humbled me more than once in my life, and I think that when you become boastful or all about you, that you will be humbled sooner or later.
Yeah,
It's just a matter of timing.
So you said something earlier, and I wanted it in your words, right? But you can get everything that you want by helping somebody else get everything that they want.
Yeah.
Right. So What was the exact wording
Gift
you
by
had,
giving.
man?
So you can get everything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want in life.
Right.
And so that's always been kind of our mindset, is try to help other people.
Right.
And that's hard because sometimes people don't want help. Sometimes it's not the right fit, whether it's for our business or,
Sometimes
investing
you
or
help
whatever.
people and then they don't acknowledge that you've helped
Yeah,
them.
it's
Right.
it's
you
tough.
can't do it for
it's
acknowledgement
yeah,
either,
you
because
can't do it for
that doesn't always come. And
Right. You're doing it for yourself.
you know what's
giving
inside
for-
your heart, right?
Right.
So
Right.
you know what you feel internally, like what your real purpose is, what you're trying to do it for, and that doesn't always come out that way, and it's not always received that way. So you have to lay your head on the pillow at the end of the night, knowing that you didn't mean harm, or you weren't trying to be greedy by doing that, or
Right.
whatever it is.
we
Right.
have a few years ago we had started this management system, and they had us write our mission statement and everything, and we all put a lot of time into it. And I wish we had kind of done that with a family mission statement. I think we kind of knew, and we're always on the same page with what our morals were, what our goals were. But one thing that did help is us wanting to help people. That was part of our mission statement. When you woke up, you were tired because you had late appointments or a lot of work or doing taxes till 3:00 in the morning. You had an appointment and you really didn't want to do an early morning appointment. It was to help somebody else, that it got you out of bed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't really want to get out of bed today, or I don't want to get out of bed that early, but this could help that person. And that was our mission statement. We were going to do these things to help them. And I did rely on that a lot,
Yeah. Well, so in living in purpose, right? Whatever that for living in purpose, in some ways you can't help but write your legacy,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whatever that is. I mean, and however you want that. So the question is to write that legacy in terms of what you think that is going to be in the end, and what you're going to be remembered for, and the mark that you're going to make on people, is if you're living out your purpose every day, because that's the story you're writing for yourself.
Yeah.
And it's a work in process.
And I think
and the
like
intentionality.
I always look at us as we were underdogs, right? We didn't have a college education. We didn't have wealthy parents that gave us money to start businesses or anything like that. So we were underdog, and we did very well. So I think we probably have a heart for the underdog, where it's the poor in Africa, or it's
I have a story for that.
Somewhere, but
When we were so busy, or not that we're not busy now, but when there were lots of sales going on, this market's a little slower. We didn't take as much time to notice a waiter or a cashier. And I don't know if it's just because we're older or what, but I really enjoyed, we went to a restaurant. We had a rough day, and he's like, you know what, let's just go to this one restaurant. And maybe the house group was over, and sat down at the table, and this kind of quiet guy, waiter, comes over, but he's quiet, and he's not smiling. And he's got tattoos all over, almost like clothing, and almost like, stay away, I'm tough, don't tease me, don't acknowledge me, something. And it says blessed across his eyebrow. And he's somebody's boy, that's somebody's kid, whatever his story is. And Tim starts engaging with him. And I thought it was just the coolest thing. Like, he had this standoff, don't ask me questions. He's like, I don't even remember what you said. He's like,
I said I like his tattoo.
I like your tattoo. You must be feeling really blessed. Are you a Christ follower, or what? Why
He's
do you feel
blessed.
so
I want to be
blessed?
close to him, right?
And he gets this kind of, and you think of somebody with tattoos as being really tough, and he gets just this smile on his face. By the end of dinner, like, he brought us so much bread
that I was blessed.
We were blessed. And it was just that time, like, I felt like he was almost trying to cover, to not be prodded with questions about him or something. And then when you started asking him questions and interacting, and here he was probably in a suit, and Tim probably was in a suit, and show that, hey, you're a human being right here with us, and you're somebody's kid, and I want to get to know you. And it was that slowing down, not even paying attention to, now I remember the situation from the day, and it was a big day. And it was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that just happened in our day. And we had to just go to a restaurant just to get out of our day. And here was this guy, and just life was better for that moment, seeing him smile, and Tim shutting off his life, his personal life, to bring somebody out of their shell for a minute. And
you never know what people are going through too.
Bread.
And we're all,
I remember
blessed in that way.
I remember we were at a breakfast, and it was actually, I think it was a breakfast. I know it was a breakfast that you invited me to, and there was a speaker, and he said, every one of us in the room, we all have 8, what would it be, grandparents,
biological
great-grandparents. How many first names can you name?
Yep.
And I could name one. I think most people in the room could name 1 or 2, and that was it.
Yeah.
And the point that he was making was, if you're going to do something good, do it while you're here, because nobody's going to remember you when you're gone.
Right. Not even your kids, grandkids are going to know who you are.
Yeah. So that point has stuck with me ever since that morning. So thank you.
Thank you for
that. And so, but our stories still be written, and it's like, God forbid, he takes us sooner than what we think we're going to go, because we haven't written it yet. And I don't know. I tell my kids, don't take yourself so seriously. And we also tell them, there's times they go, I don't know what I want to do the rest of my life. And I say, well, I'm 55 years old. I don't know what I want to do the rest of my life either. So it's okay. Right. Like, that's okay. Just do wherever you're at, bloom where you're planted. Right. Mm-hmm. Her dad used to say, wherever you go, there you are. Yeah. So if you're miserable, you're just going to be miserable everywhere you go.
Right.
Don't think that
you're the common denominator of that equation.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, and so that's those kinds of things have always stuck with me. I would love to try to drill those
like you're not
other
that big
people.
of a deal. Like you're a cool person.
Get over yourself.
Get over yourself.
Yeah, so many times
not
people,
that big of a deal.
They're not happy they move, or they're not happy they switch jobs, or and it's like, well, at some point, you got to find joy in what you're doing each day.
Yeah.
Or at least try to, right?
Yeah.
Fake it. And then there is a thing, fake it till you make it.
Yeah. When you're not finding joy in your day, you can focus on somebody else and maybe bring them some joy. And then it's like, gosh, that brought,
back to helping other people with their problems, solving other people's
joy.
Problems. And it gives you perspective when you're drilling a well or helping somebody in a restaurant too. Yeah. Well, I would love to keep going. And we will do this again in terms of the follow-up. But as we close then, as you think about other people that are out there that are, the 20-somethings thinking about, okay, do I go to school? Do I not go to school? I'm passionate about this and launching. What words of encouragement would you have if you could kind of sum up all the wisdom that you've shared in this last hour plus?
I hate to keep bringing up faith, but I can't help myself, because it's whenever we struggled and we thought there was no way out of a circumstance, no positive outcome, we paused, we prayed, and our prayer is not necessarily together. There's been some together. It's those quiet moments when you're just driving to work, driving in the office, or sitting there at home. Where do we go with this? I need direction, because I'm not smart enough to figure this out. And sometimes the answers were we just got to keep moving forward. And the answers wound up coming. Not always favorite answers. We had, maybe had to do some things that weren't pleasant, but I think, gosh, sometimes you have to just pause and wait to hear for what you should do, as long as you're not doing it for personal gain or for recognition, or for likes, follows, whatever.
The humility
it'll
that comes
come
with it.
to you. It'll come to you what you should be doing. Don't be afraid to do it.
For me, I would say discover or try to discover your strengths, discover your passions. What are you passionate about? What do you think that you really want to do? And it's okay that might change in 10 years, 20 years, or 5 years, or a year. But figure out or try to figure out what it is that you think you would really enjoy doing, because you're going to be doing it a long time. Yeah. If you're and hopefully you have strengths or you're good at it. So whether it's numbers or I'm really good at talking to people and I want to go into sales or, whatever that is.
Yeah.
But if you could figure that out and then and just realize that there's going to be tough times, no matter what you do.
Yeah.
There's going to be tough times. Activity breeds motivation. Motivation breeds success. So that get to work.
Wait, say that again.
Activity breeds motivation, and motivation breeds success. That get to work. When I say like that, get to work. I mean that. Gosh, I could tell so many stories of when I was early on in my career, and I did really well. But I had people that came to me that said, "Oh, that doesn't work," or "This doesn't work." But I went to trainings that said, "This is what we want you to do," and I just did it.
Yeah.
And I knew I had a passion for the real estate. And I knew I had a desire to be successful at it. And so it didn't matter what those outside noises said. It was what I knew I wanted to do. And I just did
Got
it.
off the couch and
Yeah.
did it.
I just did it. And I just did it over and over and over again until I had success.
Well, and this is why we could keep going, because some people will look at it and say, well, we lean into our faith, right? And we'll pray about this. And then they stop there, and it's like, well, no, you need to lean into your faith.
God gave you
pray
the
about
oar.
it. And
the boat.
and start paddling like heck,
Yeah.
right? In terms of it's both and. It's not either or, right? It's not about you and your works and look what I accomplished, and it's also not about sitting idly by and saying, as one guest said, right? It's stepping back and waiting for God to show up. It's like, well, no, it's both and in terms of how you link those things together, which you're doing beautifully. I've witnessed it firsthand. So grateful for the time together today and for dinner tonight that we'll go to shortly. But so appreciate the both of you, the example that you are, and that this will be an encouragement and inspiration to others as well. So thank you again for joining. For those of you that listened in, thank you for participating. If you want to continue the conversation, please send us an email at clearconversations@ccpwealth.com. Thank you and have a blessed day. Take care.
Thank you.